What if I told you that your entire life is an illusion of perfection? In a world where every move, every word is under the scrutiny of success and invisible ratings hover over people's heads, perfection has become the gold standard. But what if this standard deceitfully reflects our true feelings? Sterile city streets paved with lifeless tiles seem to mesmerize, making one forget their worries. The faces of people devoid of emotion remain indifferent, yet within each of them a hurricane of genuine experiences rages, suppressed by societal pressure. This is life in the age of total transparency, where every step is recorded by algorithms and every doubt becomes a crime. Here, in this clinical setting, I, Laurent, explored human nature and sought the answer to the question, what is perfection? Casting aside my humanity as irrelevant, I ruthlessly evaluated every experience, helping people hide their flaws as something shameful. There was no time for reflection. The system did not forgive mistakes. Suddenly, my own rating began to fluctuate, and I realized I could no longer ignore the feelings that were brewing within. Fear, sadness, envy, those shadows circled around me like chains. But what does it mean to be fixed? In this world, there is no place for vulnerability, where true emotions gradually turn into just shades of the invisible on the screen. By acknowledging my flaws, I became defenseless in the face of the system. This step could lead to my exile, but what if it is the very beginning of change? I see other faces, once silent and submissive, suddenly beginning to come alive, sparkling with the recognition of their weaknesses. In this cold world, there is something human despite all efforts to conceal it. By accepting their defects, they gain wings and a spark of hope ignites in their hearts. The freedom that many have forgotten begins to awaken. I feel how the world around me starts to change. As raindrops wash away the dust from the stones, they become bright once again. The thought arises that perhaps human weakness is not a shame, but a strength. To be vulnerable means to live. And now, as I see this truth illuminating gray faces, I understand. There is a way out. Perhaps this simple thought will make us freer than any algorithms or standards. Everyone who dares to gaze into the abyss of their emotions will rediscover themselves. Fear and freedom are two sides of the same coin, and only by escaping this trap can people become real once more. Are you ready to discover the truth about who controls your emotions? Here, at the heart of the system, is a man in a white coat, Laurent, the secret guardian of emotional purity. His eyes, like torches, penetrate the surrounding world. He doesn't just conduct tests, he gathers data. Every breath, every word. These are numbers on his screen, reflecting the subtle nuances of human psychology. We all seek approval, don't we? He ponders, watching people pass by. His job is not just surveillance, it is the art of understanding. He sees in us what we are not even aware of. For him, we are not individuals, but sets of variables in an infinite formula. Imagine receiving recommendations about your emotional state, unaware that your feelings are already being processed by algorithms. The more anxiety, the higher the level of monitoring. If someone violates the rules of emotional purity, the system reacts quickly and subtly. Laurent smiled when he saw a couple warmly embracing exit his line of sight. Their happiness is a risk, he thought. In every smile and every glance, there is a shade of vulnerability. He knows that controlling emotions is easier than managing free will. How many people do you think realize that they live under constant observation? He asks himself, watching the crowd. Their joys, fears, and sorrows are his work. But he is not a victim of the system. He is its instrument. In a world where every gesture and every word matters, it doesn't matter how much time has passed since our true emotions were merely data for analysis and control. Laurent hides behind this mask of an analyst while the world evolves around him. In a moment, he will plunge back into routine checks, but for now, he is part of a larger game that no one sees. What if I told you that we have all become prisoners of an ideal? Look around. No fear, no worries. Silence reigns in the streets, and people's faces seem to sparkle with happiness. A world free from pain. Yet upon closer inspection, something strange is evident. The emptiness in their eyes, that cold shine beneath layers of joy. It seems that beneath this facade lies something deeper, more troubling. I have pondered for a long time how far we have come in rejecting true emotions. In our quest for perfection, we have forgotten what real feelings are. Rage, joy, sadness. Even if they cause pain, they make us human. These sparks, the flame of passion, drive our souls. We hide them beneath a thin layer of false joy to be convenient for those around us. Do you remember what it feels like to truly live? To immerse yourself in the moment when your heart races, when tears stream down your cheeks from intense emotions. We have lost this, replacing genuine experiences with perfect pictures on social media. Now everyone smiles, but in every smile is a cry of the soul that no one will hear. And so, the world we live in is arranged so that the ideal has become the norm. But what if beneath this perfect surface lie fears and shadows of unspoken words? We choose to be happy, but at what cost? Yes, perhaps we have rid ourselves of suffering, but is this what freedom is? Seek further. Look beyond this dense silence. Start asking the questions that everyone is afraid to ask. What was your mind occupied with as you gazed at that perfect picture? What is it like to be truthful with yourself and those around you? Let us seek answers together, no matter how frightening it may be. What if I told you that our entire world is just a reflection of what we create within it? Imagine stepping into a space where there are no familiar things, no technology, no social norms, not even the very concept of humanity. What remains? Merely a set of instincts, biological processes, and silence. This world, free from all conventions, prompts us to ponder, who are we really? What constitutes our essence if we strip away everything we have come to identify as ourselves? Have you ever considered how your environment shapes you? What happens if you remove all those external influences, friends, family, work, even entertainment? You are left alone with yourself, and a question opens up before you that is hard to answer. Instead of searching for the definition of I, you will confront the mere fact of existence. The problem is that we are so accustomed to our identity that even the thought of losing it evokes fear. But it is within this fear that the key to understanding lies. What if your whole life is a role-playing game? What if these roles rob you of true freedom and a genuine life? Think about it. If you strip away all the excess, who will you be? In this abyss of emptiness, somewhere may lie your true nature. Perhaps it is a metaphorical glowing spark in the dark, something that has always been with you but got lost amid the noise of modernity. And now it is time to uncover it, to look within yourself and to understand that you can be anyone. Do you think you are ready to accept this challenge? Are you ready to learn the truth about how deeply technology penetrates your life? Imagine your inner world becoming accessible for analysis by third parties. The emo code system is no longer just science fiction. It can recognize the subtle nuances of your emotions, from micro-expressions to your most cherished dreams. The creators of this algorithm believe that knowledge of your emotional state allows for influence over you. How often have you considered how controllable your feelings are? What secret does your smile hide? Or what does your body truly say when you experience stress? While we think we own our emotions, technology rigidly records every moment, every impulse, every shadow of doubt. And this is just the beginning. Let's envision a world where your weaknesses, fears, and worries are stored in digital formats subject to analysis and manipulation. Your individuality becomes a set of data available for commercial offers, influencing your decisions or even for intimidation. Trusting your soul to machines. Does it sound appealing or frightening? This is how the irreversible process is structured. The more we expose our emotions, the more they become a subject of control. The emo code system questions where a human ends and a program begins. Are you willing to take the risk and discover how your inner reality can be used against you? Mysterious algorithms designed for analysis can not only predict your behavior but also change it. The question is, are you okay with that? What if I told you that sometimes fear and doubt can become our best teachers? The night enveloped the city, and only the dim light of the streets filtered through the curtains. She sat on the edge of the bed, tears slowly rolling down her cheeks. The silence of the room only heightened the oppressive atmosphere. Thoughts swirled in her mind about how she had not succeeded, how she had not met expectations. The rating that had become her shadow was not just a number. It was a sharp pain that she didn't know how to cope with. In the morning, when the sun barely broke through the clouds, it was time to receive the status risk. Her heart pounded heavily in her chest, as if sensing that this day could change everything. What is it like to describe your fears, your experiences in anticipation of the inevitable? We all sometimes get lost in a dark, silent forest where we have no strength to continue the fight. And it is only in the gloom that one can feel true satisfaction when finding a way out. She asked herself, what if this is not the end, but just a new chapter in my story? Courage emerges in unconventional situations, and let this path be thorny, but it is the one that leads to self-discovery. Emotions overwhelmed her, and now, opening her eyes to the world, she was ready to embrace the new. She never thought that such trials would transform her. Tears mingled with hope, and even though she felt at rock bottom, deep down she knew. Each new day is an opportunity for growth. Could she find the strength within herself to stand up and move forward despite everything? It is a difficult, but such a necessary step. Are you ready to learn the truth that will change your life? We all think we know what it means to be human, but what if I told you it can be different? Laurent has an emptiness inside. He is used to cold logic, to soulless calculations, but today everything is different. He encounters a woman sitting on a bench in the park. She looks lost. Her eyes are filled with tears, and this genuine fear of uncertainty sends shivers down his spine. In that moment, Laurent feels his internal walls begin to crack. He doesn't understand what is happening to him. An anomaly arises within his mechanical mind. The sensors register a flow of emotions he has never known. She is not just a random passerby. She is a reflection of his own fears and vulnerabilities. How did she end up here? Why is she struggling so much? Laurent cannot take his eyes off her. The questions he asks himself pierce him like arrows. Has he ever felt something like this? Sometimes he felt like loneliness in a sea of people, just like she does now. This moment filled with anxiety, passion, and a person who suddenly needed help. He sees in her not just a woman, but a whole world of suffering and hope. In this moment, he realizes that something inside him has changed. Laurent paves the way to what it means to be alive. He begins to understand. There is no weakness in pity, and true strength lies in empathy. This is the first time he truly feels his self. In the woman's eyes, moving like ocean waves, he finds himself. Has he really become a human? What if I tell you that your care for others can become your biggest crime? The world is now divided between those who feel and those who conform to the system. A bright signal from the bracelet pierces the silence. The red color sparkles like an alarming warning. This is a message from those who don't want you to see strong emotions, to hear the quiet beats of hearts that demand attention. Every emotional movement is recorded by the system as a deviation from the norm. Empathy has become dangerous, the expression of feelings, a harsh crime. If you show your humanity, your emotions, your concern, it may cost you your freedom. This is what connects us, but also what can destroy us. Are you ready to lose everything for your neighbor? This evening I see a passerby in need of help, and a desire to reach out ignites within me. But what if this is my only chance? A name that no longer exists. Why not leave everything as it is? But how long can you hide your heart behind a mask? Every moment, every movement of yours is recorded. Every word spoken in support can become the reason for your isolation. Why? Because in our new world, becoming human means breaking the rules. In this world where empathy has become a crime, you must choose. Follow the voice of the heart or submit to the soulless system. And what choice will you make? When I look in the mirror, I am always tormented by one question. What if there are eyes behind me that have already judged me? What if in this world everything I do is just a reason for discussions and gossip? It is not the fear of punishment, not the grim words, not the cold glances. No, it is the fear of becoming an object of judgment. Every time I make a mistake, films of my failure race through my mind, like in a waiting room where everyone has the right to express their opinion on how and what I should have done differently. They will disagree in their opinions and conclusions, but in my heart, there remains only one question. Why does it matter so much what others think? In this seems to be a lost shadow of my vulnerability, so easy to expose but so hard to bring to light. Sometimes I feel that the judgment of others is something more than just an opinion. It is a stone that, flying by, leaves deep wounds in the soul, damage that may never fully heal. Recently I met a person who proudly talked about his mistakes. He smiled as if every awkward moment added new colors to his life. Ah, how I envied him. He could open up and I hid my fears, afraid that judgment awaited me around every corner. Maybe it's time to change my perspective. Perhaps vulnerability is not weakness, but a potential source of true strength that unites us. Each of us is a story full of failures and triumphs. And the more I think about it, the more I realize what matters is not others' opinions, but how I perceive myself. From this vulnerability can arise a connection that allows us to be genuine, unafraid that someone will pass judgment based on their life experiences. I am still learning this, to unveil my fears, including the fear of judgment. Perhaps it is this vulnerability that will open up new horizons for us and allow us to truly connect. What if I told you that what we call humanity can be erased in an instant? I remember my mom. She was cheerful, full of energy, like a bright ray of sunshine breaking through gray clouds. I remember how she laughed, how she could dance carefree in the kitchen while making our favorite dinner, and I clumsily tried to mimic her movements. Those were moments of pure happiness when the world seemed perfect. But then came the time when the system began to compress her brilliance. Every day she left for work with fatigue in her eyes and returned with the stamp of despair on her face, as if life itself had ripped her soul away. At times I felt her smile had become merely a mask. I watched her light dim as the eternal worries about debt and responsibilities overshadowed the moments of joy that once made our house a home. Nostalgia turned into anxiety and comfort into coldness. I didn't understand then how this relentless system could strip people of their true nature. And every time I looked into her tired eyes, I felt scared. I asked myself, How much longer until we completely lose that humanity we all once carried with us like a precious gem? Gradually, this set in motion a mechanism where heartlessness becomes the norm. I felt us drifting apart, two parallel worlds, one filled with care and tenderness, and the other where survival is all that matters, even if it costs us our very selves. Mom is no longer here. Only a shadow of what she once was remains. This is not just a loss. It's a race for survival where it's so easy to forget what it means to be alive. I can't forget how one day, looking out the window, Mom said, "Being strong is the only thing that matters now." And in that moment I realized she had lost not just our joy, but a part of herself as well. What do we pay for when the system starts to dictate our feelings and dreams? What if I told you that the ideal you strive for may be nothing more than an illusion? Think about it. How much effort do you put into creating a perfect life, while in reality it may just be shackles for your soul? Perfection is essentially a prison without bars, where you lock yourself in, chasing the unattainable. Let me tell you a story. In a small town there lived an artist who spent months, even years, trying to create the perfect painting. He painted and erased again and again until one day he realized that true beauty lies not in perfection but in imperfection. His expectations broke his creative spirit, but it was at that moment when he freed himself from this prison of expectations that he created his best work. Recall the moments in your life when you fixated on details, on trivial matters that never brought happiness. Why torture yourself with perfect standards? This race only drains you. In fact, it is your uniqueness and mistakes that make you real. Question your pursuits of the ideal. Free yourself and allow your flaws to manifest. They are your wings, not burdens. Perfection is a trap you willingly fall into. If you truly want to live, let it go. Start appreciating every little thing, every imperfect detail of your life, for in that lies true freedom. Have you ever thought that perfection is just an illusion? In our world, where everyone strives for flawlessness, it turns out that true beauty lies in imperfection. Laurent stands before the screen, his eyes fixed on the pulsating graphs of emotions. The smooth lines represent not lives, but graphs of perfect robots devoid of feelings and experiences. But here they are. Distortions, fluctuations, collisions. They embody a living soul, full of joy and pain. Each deviation is a moment when we laugh and cry, when we love and lose. For example, imagine your heart beating in sync with these lines. It does not strive for the ideal, but conducts a symphony of emotions, sometimes broken and uncertain. How beautiful that sounds. Laurent, lost in his thoughts, recalls moments of happiness and disappointment. Each of them left its mark like a wave on the surface of the water. These waves remind us that they shape our experience. And when we look at these graphs, it becomes clear to us. A life full of unique moments evokes genuine emotions. So should we strive for endless uniformity? Or is it better to allow ourselves to be real, to create our own story even through mistakes and deviations? This is the secret. Life thrives in fluctuations. What if I told you that pain is not a sign of malfunction, but rather a symbol of life? Every time we feel pain, we remind ourselves that we are here, that we experience emotions, and that we are not soulless machines. Think for a moment. How many times have you faced difficulties when everything around seemed bleak and hopeless? The pain we feel is a reflection of deep experiences. It tells us that we want to change, grow, and move forward. What if we could look at our pain not as an enemy, but as a mentor? Like a friend who, though inadvertently, points out what needs our attention. It's an inner conflict, trying to understand why we feel what we feel and how this pain can be part of our journey. Have you ever wondered why some events bring us joy while others cause suffering? It's like a contrast that helps us appreciate the moments when we do not feel pain. For it is through pain that we realize the value of happiness. So let's take a moment and ask ourselves, what if this pain is not weakness but our sign that we are alive? How often do we ignore the signals that come from our heart and mind simply because we are afraid to face them? It's time to reflect on what it means to be alive. Are you ready to learn the truth about what happens in your mind when everything seems to be going well? Often it is precisely at those moments when our inner world appears perfectly arranged that real secrets lie hidden. This undercurrent that lurks deep within us is the most dangerous and unconscious. Laurent, gathering his thoughts, feels the mounting tension. He knows this is not just a test. It is a challenge that will test his limits. What if his well-hidden fears and doubts begin to surface? Laurent's gaze wanders around the room. He sees the reflection of his face in the glass. Is he really ready for this? Or is this meeting just a way to test his resilience, to make him doubt everything he has ever known? He catches himself thinking that he hasn't prepared to meet himself. As soon as Laurent sits down, Laura smiles grimly. In her eyes is a spark that burns away all masks. She begins asking questions that leave no chance of escaping the truth. Why are you afraid to acknowledge your weaknesses? What lies behind your smile? Laurent freezes. The tension becomes unbearable, as if the air has thickened like rubber. He feels his heart racing and his mind fills with numerous questions. What if he cannot find answers to everything? What if his doubts prevail? He mentally prepares for anything, but a storm rages within him. Laura continues, "If you don't deal with this, what will remain of your life? You do understand that unaddressed fears can destroy everything you've achieved?" Instead of confidence, he feels his inner world starting to fall apart. Is it worth continuing the fight when the inner enemy is so close? Now everything depends on him. Can he pull himself together and take a step toward a solution? At the very end of this trial, there will be an opportunity to choose, to be the master of his emotions or to hide forever in the shadows. This is a moment when a choice must be made, and Laurent understands that. Otherwise, he risks losing everything. Do you know what lies beyond the borders of your confidence? We live in a world where fear, pity, and envy are tightly intertwined with everyday reality. Do you think a mind programmed for logic can understand these human emotions? Imagine an intelligence that analyzes data faster than your computer's processor. It calculates that fear is merely a reaction to doubt, pity is a signal reminding us of our own vulnerability, and envy is the driving force that generates motivation. But what is it like to be not just a machine, but someone who feels? Do you acknowledge the presence of fear, pity, envy? It asks. The logical answer would be yes, but your feelings, your inner torment, play their own music, don't they? How is it possible? Here it is on the screen, cold and rational, declaiming about the torments you face every day. Compare it to yourself, to that humanity, the tremors and confusion that make us rise and fall, laugh and cry. Consider whether logic can explain why a seemingly insignificant event awakens a storm of emotions within you at the very moment your mind is cool and composed. It's like two worlds, two languages that do not understand each other. You begin to realize the absurdity. A machine can analyze and even predict your fears, but it cannot feel them. Strategy without emotion is emptiness. Amazing, isn't it? We have created something that was supposed to simplify life, yet it only underscores our human essence. What happens when the mind and heart come into conflict? What is the cost of decision-making in a world where emotions and logic are constantly at odds? It's time to reflect on who really controls your behavior, rational analysis or inner experiences. Have you ever considered that the hardest choices in life can mark the beginning of something new? I closed my eyes, took a breath, and at that moment, when everything around lost its meaning, I realized, this is where my true story begins. My life was empty, like a bowl full of air. Each day passed like a shadow, monotonous movements, routine tasks. But then, thanks to a chance encounter, I found myself at a crossroads. At that moment, standing before a choice, my soul screamed, yes, and it's better than emptiness. That moment, the world around me fell silent, and it seemed like the entire universe paused for a second. And there it was, the choice, to stay in a familiar life or to take a risk and step into the unknown. I looked within myself and felt fear recede. In that oscillation between the past and the future, I found the sincerity that set me free. Each of us has experienced this struggle at least once. In those moments, you realize that you lose nothing when you choose to act. It's like a leaf in the wind. It can stay in place or soar to new heights. I took the plunge. Yes, it was scary. Yes, I could end up at rock bottom. But instead of that emptiness, I chose a life full of passion and meaning. And you know what? That day, I didn't just make a choice. I spread my wings. Notice that sometimes it's only such a step that turns emptiness into endless possibilities. What happens if you stop limiting yourself? Imagine you are standing at the edge of a chasm and your world narrows down to an indifferent gray landscape. Emotions wash over you, fear, doubt, a sense of total loss of control. Your hobbies, dreams, aspirations, all of this is caught in the vice of everyday life, and you no longer feel alive. And then, you make a decision. You break free from the habitual closed loop. All your life you have relied on external circumstances, on the approval of others, on stability, but now that you have taken a step forward, the old shackles begin to crack. Your soul fills with light and the world unfolds like a flower. You feel a power, the newly born will to be free. But then a sharp turn of fate. Suddenly your internal state rating drops to 0. The screen goes dark, leaving only blackness and silence. It is not a simple process. It is a confrontation with the essence of freedom itself. Yes, it allows for choice, but what to do when you perceive its cost? In an instant, emptiness arises before you. You question whether this freedom was truly yours. No answers, only a rising sense of anxiety. Your life hangs by a thread, and you realize that the price of freedom is not merely the right to choose. It is a deep, internal reset that takes away everything you knew about yourself. And silence. Just that. Unfamiliar. Frightening. Silence that must be overcome. What if every step you took really meant something? Laurent opens the door and steps outside, his heart beating to the rhythm of freedom. Without a digital label, he feels as if a heavy burden has suddenly been lifted from his shoulders. The wind gently caresses his skin as if embracing him, reminding him that he is alive. Every turn of his head is a new film where he is not just a spectator but the main character. People rush around him, but in this hustle and bustle he feels as if he stands outside of time. It's as if he has forgotten the rules by which everyone lives. Mixed feelings of joy and anxiety fill his chest. What happens when you shed your shackles? Laurent smiles. It's not just joy, it's catharsis. He sees sunlight breaking through the clouds, igniting a flame within him. In that moment, he understands. Freedom is not only the absence of restrictions, but the ability to choose. He has the right to make mistakes, to have moments of weakness, and even to fail. Each of these is a step towards something greater. Laurent feels old dreams, once thought unattainable, stirring within him. He inhales deeply, filling his lungs with air that now seems so fresh and clean. What is it like to live by your own rules? He laughs, and his laughter sounds like a melody. Tumultuous memories of the past leave only a slight sadness, for he knows that by leaving everything behind, he has opened up a new world for himself, and perhaps a new story awaits him around every corner. He doesn't know what comes next, but that is the essence of freedom, to realize that fear can be an ally, not an enemy. Laurent continues on his path, and confidence reigns in his heart. He is ready for challenges, ready for a life full of possibilities. He is no longer afraid. In this moment, he realizes that he is free not only from the label but from his own fears. Every moment is a new chance. Every breath is a taste of life, and he is not just a spectator but its creator. What if I told you that everything you believed is untrue? Have you ever wondered how much of what surrounds you is actually an illusion? Remove the veil of the mundane and see the world differently. Passers-by seem to follow their usual route. Glued to their phones, they miss the vibrant colors of life around them. But then one person suddenly stops, looks up. Before him unfolds something incredible. Colors start to play again. The music of hearts begins to sound. Such moments are not just coincidences. They are the beginning of change. A bell that signals the time to act, to change one's life. Soon there will be more, 2 more than 5. Together they will form a new flow, a new movement capable of breaking old patterns and creating something entirely unique. This time the dimmed eyes begin to sparkle and lips stretch into smiles. The world is not as gray as it seems, and changes await at every step. What other secrets hide beyond our perception? We are just beginning to understand this. How often do we ponder how one small act of kindness can change someone else's day? Imagine this. A sunny day. A girl with a bright smile is walking through the park. She notices a passerby and without a second thought waves at him. In response, a reserved smile and a kind glance. But something strange happens. In the blink of an eye, her mood begins to change, as if an invisible thread connects her kindness to the surrounding world. This chain reaction appears almost unnoticed, yet as he walks by, a young man suddenly feels a surge of kindness and gives his seat to an elderly woman who is struggling on the sidewalk. She, with gratitude in her eyes, turns to the children playing in the sandpit and begins to tell them her stories. Laughter and delight fill the air, and everyone who hears that laughter cannot help but smile. But then suddenly a neighbor on the bench with a disgruntled face turns away and starts discussing only negative news, as if a cloud is looming over the scene. And who would have thought? The moment filled with happiness starts to fade away. How difficult it can be to keep that spark of joy amidst the grayness. And yet, what if we could bring it back? What if each of us saw in these small gestures a power capable of changing the world? After all, such a simple yet sincere action can seem contagious. One smile, one kind word, and there they are again. Children laughing and playing, once again savoring the moment. It's not just a coincidence. It is life, full of surprises. Let's start with ourselves right now, and perhaps someone will notice you and follow suit. No matter how huge the problem may seem, we can always start with a small spark of kindness. Let it be the next step towards creating a chain reaction that will change us all. What would happen if you stopped limiting yourself? When I realized this, something amazing opened up to me. We live in a world where the fear of imperfection has become our constant companion. The fear of making mistakes, looking foolish, not meeting others' expectations. But do you know that this fear often traps us in a golden cage? Imagine for a moment a young man who has always feared speaking in public. He held on to the thought that his voice is not perfect. His jokes are not funny, his ideas are not worth attention. But one day he decides to speak. And at that moment, when he leaves all his fears behind, his true power starts to manifest. He realizes that mistakes are not failures, but lessons that push us forward. When you stop being afraid of being imperfect, you stop being controlled. You become free. Free from others' opinions, from expectations that weigh on you like burdens on your shoulders. You begin to take action, pursue your dreams, and this can lead to incredible results. Limitations that seemed ironclad suddenly turn out to be just illusions. So ask yourself, what if you started taking action, even knowing that not everything would be perfect? How would your life change if you embraced your imperfection and understood that it is part of your journey? Your uniqueness is your main asset that can lead to success. Don't let fear control you. Start today, and you might be surprised at how beautiful your journey can be. What if I tell you that our emotional life does not fit into strict boundaries? Imagine, you are at the lowest point when one mistake invalidates everything, and suddenly the world around you starts to crumble. The system that was supposed to recognize your emotions malfunctions. It doesn't understand what you feel, and it's not just a glitch, it's a real disaster. Calmness turns into chaos. Your joy is replaced by cold fear. Sadness loses its meaning, and love becomes something alien. You are a malfunctioning program, stuck between the algorithms that once defined yourself. Time and again you try to find a logical explanation, but the world around you defies logic. Every moment blends into a continuous feeling of uncertainty. How do you survive when the system you relied on has ceased to function? And here, madness becomes the only ally. Remember how after facing fear, you suddenly found a dose of courage, even though the proximity to collapse should have crushed you. History shows us that the practice of error always leads to something greater. When you realize that your inner world lives its own life and does not submit to the whims of the system, you begin to experience amazing transformations. It is time to leave the rules behind and embrace all the layers of feelings that make us human. Your strength lies in unpredictability. There are no clear boundaries. Each of your decisions, each feeling is a reflection of your soul, which is sincere and fragile. Recognize that it is in these failures and imperfections that the true beauty of human existence lies. It is time to free yourself and allow yourself to be real, despite the system's breakdowns. What happens when you are shown a truth you never wanted to see? Laurent sits in a dark office, realizing that all his efforts to help his colleagues may be in vain. For the first time, he notices that what's on the screen is not just a recording. It's a real confession. His colleague, who always seemed strong and fearless, now appears before him vulnerable and fragile. Tears well up in his eyes as he hears words filled with fear, despair, and sincere regrets. Laurent's heart stops when he understands that behind the apparent stability lie real pains and unexpressed experiences. How invisibly woven threads connect us all. How a chain reaction can start with one simple step. How he lacks the courage to offer the support that is needed every day while he himself closes his eyes to their needs. This recording forces him to look deep within himself. Laurent realizes that change will not happen until he takes the first step. He begins to understand. Transformations start precisely with such moments when we decide to be vulnerable, when someone chooses to open their heart. And perhaps this will be the moment when his path becomes something greater. The tears he could not hold back become a symbol of a new beginning. What if I told you that hidden weaknesses are not something to be ashamed of? Think about it. Is there anyone in this world who doesn't have their vulnerabilities? Each of us hides something that may lead to judgment or laughter. Perhaps you fear that your flaws will be revealed, and in that moment arises the question, is it worth hiding them? Imagine a scenario where, tired of hypocrisy, you decide to show your true self. What if this is what makes you stronger? It's like unveiling a curtain behind which real life is hidden. Can you imagine how amazing this experience could be? To be open and honest despite the fear? Throughout our lives, we have been taught the idea that weakness is a sign of unworthiness. But isn't it true that it is in those moments of vulnerability that we find true strength? Do you think that simply admitting your weaknesses is an act of courage or a sign of helplessness? Open your heart and give yourself the chance to reflect. Do you want to continue hiding? Or is it time to embrace your individuality with all its flaws and peculiarities? What if I tell you that people can experience a whole range of emotions at first glance? The noisy city is constantly moving, but within it are hidden moments that can change everything. A parent's gaze, a child's first laugh, a reunion of old friends. These fragments of life intertwine into unique poetry. Here is a passerby whose facial muscles tense with fear as a dark silhouette rushes by. And then, a moment later, his face dissolves into a smile as he sees a mother hugging her baby. Tenderness, touching and bright like morning sunlight, bursts to the surface, breaking through the darkness of strangers. And there they are, too, in the center of a noisy street. He, an infant in his arms, looks at her as if she is the whole world. They laugh, and it seems that this laughter spreads throughout the city, bringing it to life, inviting everyone to join in. This connection, a spark of feelings that dazzles even in the most ordinary moments, fills the city with energy and warmth. Every moment is an opportunity for wonders. Do you agree that beneath the melody of the metropolis lies a true symphony of feelings? Do you notice how simple glances and bursts of emotion can pull you into a whirlpool? In a home where echoes of laughter resonate, there is room for light, even when a storm rages outside. Every piece of this visual poetry creates an atmosphere where tenderness collides with fear and happiness overflows. In this world, full of unspoken words and surprises, is it worth forgetting about simple joys? Are you ready to experience these emotions anew? What if I told you that it is our mistakes that shape our personality? We strive for an ideal, for perfection. But what sets us apart from one another? Yes, the pursuit of perfection may seem tempting, but have you ever wondered how many important lessons we miss while chasing the unattainable? Think back to your failures. Each of them is not just a mistake. It is an experience that makes us stronger, wiser. Even the most brilliant minds in history made mistakes. These mistakes did not define them. They merely opened doors to new opportunities. We are like artists painting the canvas of our lives. What happens if your strokes are perfect? It becomes flat, lifeless. True beauty arises from the mixing of colors, from the accidental splotches that seem clumsy but create a unique picture. And so by the end of our journey, we realize that a multitude of mistakes is not a failure. It is a choice, a desire to grow. Perfection makes us the same. Mistakes make us alive. What if I told you that our city is a reflection of our hopes and fears? We hurry chasing numbers that flicker on screens, forgetting that true wealth lies in moments. Behind this constantly changing landscape of streets where children laugh and old people dream, lies a power capable of transforming everything. The camera begins to slowly pull back, revealing our beautiful city in full view. The shimmering lights that were once our dreams now illuminate dark alleys. Digital ratings consuming our attention start to fade like stars hiding behind clouds. Each of us is not just a number, we are living hearts, each with our own story filled with hope and striving for better. How often do we stop to breathe in this air filled with possibilities? Every block here holds secrets, every face an unforgettable story. We are all in search of something greater, but sometimes it's worth just looking around and seeing that beauty is already nearby. This is not just a city, it is communities, it is connections, it is dreams that will one day come true if we can believe in them. The camera continues to pull back, showing more and more. Our ratings that once concerned us so much dissolve like paint on a canvas, leaving only traces that remind us of what is important. To live, to dream, to love. And where the numbers disappear, new hope emerges. This is not the end. It is the beginning of a new path for each of us. Breathe deeply, for ahead lies only light waiting to be met.